Am I the antagonist for ignoring my mom when she came to visit me for Thanksgiving? My mother, who is now 43 years old, left 2 years ago after receiving a job offer in the UK. The rest of my family followed her 6 months later, but as I was only 17 at the time, just a month shy of turning 18, my visa was denied. This devastated me and caused me to experience depression for almost a year. I ended up staying with my mother's sister and miraculously received a partial scholarship to a nearby school in the UK, which I will be attending next year. A few days ago, my mother came to visit me. I use quotes because it doesn't feel like true visitation. She arrived late in the evening and was so exhausted that she only had a brief conversation before going to sleep. The next day, she went to see her Aunt Kay for her cousin's wedding planning, and as a member of the bridal team, I had to get my hair and nails done so I couldn't spend time with her. The following day was the day of the wedding, so we were both occupied. Monday morning brought exhaustion, but it was my dad's sister's birthday, so we had to attend that gathering along with seeing other relatives throughout the day. Tuesday was supposed to be a day for my mother and me to spend time together, but she canceled because Aunt Kay, being a pastor, asked her to preach at a memorial in the morning. Additionally, other people wanted to meet with her in the afternoon and evening. She arranged for a cab for me that morning, promising to see me that evening, although I had a feeling she wouldn't. Unfortunately, my intuition was correct. She returned very late, and I had already fallen asleep. The next morning, I only had a few hours with her before she had to visit my paternal grandparents who live far away. I couldn't accompany her because I had online lessons. Once again, she promised to return early in the evening, but she didn't. Instead, she spent the night at my maternal grandmother's house and only came back today at 9 p.m. Tomorrow, she is graduating, but I won't be able to attend due to an online test and important lessons lasting the entire day. The day after that is my maternal grandfather's memorial, and then she leaves early Sunday morning. So when she returned today, I was ignoring her and providing curt responses. As someone who is normally talkative, she noticed and seemed hurt. Therefore, I'm unsure if I'm the one at fault here. It is completely understandable that you feel hurt and neglected by your mother's visit. It seems like she made promises to spend time with you but consistently failed to follow through due to her busy schedule. It's important to communicate to her how you feel and express your needs for quality time together. It's not unreasonable for you to be upset and frustrated with the situation. However, it might be helpful to have a calm and open conversation with your mother to express your emotions and work towards a resolution. Am I the antagonist for not responding to my husband's calls when it was an emergency? Hi, everyone. I apologize if there are any issues with the format. I am new to Reddit. I'm here seeking some perspective because a friend of mine mentioned that I could receive unbiased opinions. For privacy reasons, I will be using fake names. I'm a 36-year-old woman with a husband named Tom and 3 children. Kate, 10 years old, Mary, 8 years old, and William, 5 years old. Since my youngest child was born, I have not had any time to myself. I have not gone on a night out, taken a girls' trip, or even had a peaceful afternoon to watch a movie and enjoy a glass of wine. Before anyone comments, please understand that I do not want to do these things all the time. I'm fully aware of my responsibilities towards my kids. However, I simply believe it would be nice to take a break a few times a year, perhaps. Because of this, my friend Penny asked me to go on a girls' trip with our college friends to the beach for 7 days. Initially, I was skeptical since I did not want to leave my kids alone and burden Tom with everything on his own for that long. However, she eventually convinced me. I discussed this with Tom and he assured me I should go. He would take care of everything at home. He did not seem worried at all, so eventually my concerns faded away. I became very excited about the idea of a stress-free trip. Before I left, I specifically told him to only contact me in case of emergencies, to which he agreed. However, once I left and began enjoying my time with my friends, Tom started calling me at least 7, 8 times a day for the smallest things. For instance, he would inquire about trivial matters like Kate can't find her hairbrush. Where is it? Or where are the salt and pepper? Or what's the name of William's kindergarten teacher again? This went on for 3 days. I kept reminding him that he agreed to only call for emergencies, but he dismissed my reminders. His persistent calls became overwhelming, especially because Tom had promised me a stress-free trip. As a result, I decided to turn off my phone. Nevertheless, on the 5th day, Penny approached me and informed me that Tom had called her, urging me to come home immediately. It turned out that Mary had fallen off her bike and broken her arm in multiple places. Naturally, I cut my trip short and returned home right away. However, when I arrived home, Tom's demeanor towards me was cold and rude. Initially, I attributed it to the stress caused by Mary's injury, but his behavior persisted for days. Eventually, I confronted him directly and he lashed out at me. He accused me of abandoning our children by refusing to answer my phone and breaking my promise of immediate response during a real emergency. He insisted that I cannot just stop being a mother because of a silly vacation. I tried to defend myself by pointing out that he kept calling me for the smallest inconveniences, interrupting my trip. Moreover, he had claimed that he had everything under control. In response, Tom argued that it could have been an emergency every time he called, so it was my responsibility to answer. I likened the situation to the story of the boy who cried wolf, but he found that comparison ridiculous. My friends are all supporting me, but Tom is still not speaking to me. Therefore, I would appreciate hearing other opinions on whether I was wrong in this situation. You'd been wanting some time away to yourself for a long time, and your friend convinced you to go on a girls' trip. Your husband initially agreed to handle everything around the house and assured you that he could manage without constantly calling for non-emergency issues. However, he repeatedly called you several times a day with minor matters that could have been resolved without your immediate involvement, despite your reminder to only call for emergencies. Feeling frustrated, you decided to turn off your phone to enjoy a stress-free trip. Only after a serious incident, when your daughter broke her arm, did you cut the trip short and return home. Your husband's reaction and accusation of abandoning the kids seems unfair. While it is understandable that he was stressed about your daughter's injury, his constant calling for minor issues may have contributed to the situation. It is important to have open communication and address his concerns, but his expectation for you to be available at all times during your trip, after he initially agreed to handle everything, seems unreasonable. It would be advisable to have a calm conversation with your husband to express your own feelings and listen to his perspective as well. Understanding each other's viewpoints and finding a compromise will be crucial in resolving this issue and moving forward. Am I the antagonist for telling my dad it's not my job to make sure my half-siblings have a mom? My parents divorced when I was 5 years old. I am now a 17-year-old male. The reason for their separation remains unclear to me. However, I've always suspected that my dad cheated on my mom, as he quickly got into a relationship with someone else shortly after the divorce. My mom never discussed it with me, though. She only reassured me that both she and my dad loved me, and that I would never have to choose between them. After the divorce, my dad was in 2 live-in relationships. When I was 7, he was with a woman named Jen, and they had a daughter named Luna, who is now 9 years old. Then, when I was 10, he started a relationship with Bree, and they had a son named Harry, who is now 7 years old. However, both Jen and Bree eventually stopped being mother figures to Luna and Harry. As a result, my dad became a single full-time parent to my half-siblings. Since then, my dad has been trying to convince my mom to take on some kind of maternal role in their lives. He even corrects me when I refer to Luna and Harry as my half-siblings, insisting that they are just like any other siblings. He believes that if I start calling them my siblings, it might encourage my mom to become a female role model for them. He would often ask my mom to let my half-siblings come over to her house during her custodial time, as my parents share equal custody of me. He claimed that I really missed them when I wasn't around, and that I wanted to spend every holiday with them. However, none of these claims were true. I never said or implied any of those things. Luna is struggling with the absence of female family members in her life. She only has a dad, 2 half-brothers, and an uncle. Because of this, my dad has recently become more insistent on my mom's involvement and is now trying to involve me more as well. Recently, he sat me down and explained that my half-siblings deserve to have a mother figure in their lives. He suggested that I could help them by sharing my mom and allowing them to experience the love and care they deserve. He pointed out that I have always treated them as if they were less than full siblings, using the half label and failing to include them when they visit my mom's house. He emphasized that it is now my responsibility as the older brother to step up and take on a more significant role. In response, I explained to him that it is not my job, nor has it ever been, to provide my half-siblings with a mother figure. I firmly stated that it is the responsibility of their actual mothers, including my dad, to fulfill that role. I also expressed my disgust at how he keeps trying to involve my mom in this situation. I told him to accept the fact that he only had 1 child with my mom, and she is only obligated to care for me. However, his response was to express disappointment in me for both my answer and my apparent lack of concern for the overall well-being of my half-siblings. He urged me to do better, be better, and care more for my innocent little siblings. After this conversation, I confided in my mom, and she strongly criticized my dad for putting this burden on me. She assured me that my response was justified. However, my uncle believes that I could show more compassion towards my innocent half-siblings. So I'm now questioning whether I'm the one in the wrong here? It is not your responsibility as the older sibling to provide a mother figure for your half-siblings. Your dad is putting an unfair burden on you by expecting you to handle this situation. It is commendable that you are looking out for yourself and setting boundaries. It is ultimately your dad's responsibility, along with the actual mothers of your half-siblings, to ensure their emotional well-being. Am I the antagonist for telling my mother that she made her bed? Now she has to lay in it because she is upset that our relationship has changed? 2 years ago, my mother started dating a man. Despite expressing our reluctance to meet him, because she was consistently dating different people, we did not want to get attached. They forced the situation, which made my sisters and me uncomfortable. Shortly after, he began staying over regularly. My mother's personality changed significantly after meeting him. For example, he would make inappropriate comments about my mother in front of us, and she would just laugh. About a year ago, they came home after a date, and I, being busy with a timed online university assignment, just shouted hello from my desk. 20 minutes later, without a word to me or my sister, I heard the outside gate slam and them leaving just as I finished my assignment. I went out to check what was happening, but they were already gone. 10 minutes after they left, My sister and I received a horrible voice message where my mother accused us of being disrespectful and ungrateful. She also accused us of not greeting either of them when they came inside, but we both did. She left for a week and a half, leaving us with only 4 days' worth of food in the freezer and no money for electricity, and no way to get my sister to school during that week, with no return date mentioned. She wanted us to apologize for being brats and not greeting them before she would consider coming back. When we finally talked, she insisted that we were disrespectful for not dropping everything and meeting them at the front door to greet them when they came back, and also that neither of us greeted them in any form, which is not true because I did greet them, and I heard my sister greet them as well. They are the ones who did not respond. The house was small, so it is unlikely that they didn't hear us. It's worth mentioning that this expectation was never mentioned before this incident, and throughout the years my mother never required us to greet her at the door like a butler. The power and food were running low, so we reluctantly apologized, even though we clearly weren't guilty of what she accused us of. My sister was still in high school and I was a first-year uni student, so neither of us had the financial capacity to manage a household. During this conversation, I told her that our relationship would never be the same. Recently, my mother asked why our relationship remains distant. I reminded her that I had warned her about the lasting impact of our argument. My trust in her as a reliable parent was shattered, and I couldn't simply forget the 2 weeks she abandoned us based on false accusations. While she insisted that I should move on, I emphasized that she created this distance, and I couldn't force a connection that no longer existed. She's calling me an asshole for holding this over her head. She says that she's still my mother and deserves forgiveness, but despite her being my mother, I believe the trust has been irreparably damaged. She has given me no indication that she has changed. So am I the asshole for what I said? It's completely understandable that you feel distant from your mother and have a hard time forgiving her for the way she treated you and your sister. The fact that she abandoned you both for 2 weeks based on false accusations is a serious breach of trust, and it's natural for that to affect your relationship with her. You have clearly communicated your feelings to her and explained why you find it difficult to connect with her. Trust is an essential component of any relationship, and if she hasn't shown any effort to rebuild that trust or acknowledge the impact of her actions, it's reasonable for you to feel the way you do. It's also important to note that forgiveness is a personal choice, and it cannot be forced. Your mother claiming that she deserves forgiveness simply because she is your mother does not hold water. Forgiveness requires genuine remorse, accountability, and efforts to change. Holding her accountable for her actions and setting boundaries is not being an asshole. It's taking care of your own emotional well-being.